Cheese. All right, welcome back to another episode of That's Some Cheese, part of the Vendetta Sports Podcast Network. Today is Monday, April 6th, 2020, and for episode 69, we have the lead word zone, Chad Bauman, who has never made an appearance on That's Some Cheese, if I remember correctly.
No, that's correct. Never been on That's Some Cheese. It was the first time. I'm a cheese virgin, but we're getting it done on episode 69, so that more than makes up for it.
So I guess we're going to continue the Behind the Blog series, get to the, I guess, first blogger for Vendetta, Chad Bauman, who started the lead word with me. So I guess I kind of want to get into how the site got started, how the podcast got started. So I'll let you tell the story because you're on the show, and we'll let you tell what's going on and how everything got started.
Okay, so we're going back to the beginning, like how me and you met, that kind of thing.
Everything.
So I make sure I'm on the right.
Lay it all out there.
Okay, so me and Trey. First, I guess it all starts once upon a time at Ursinus College. First things first, I was weird when I first got to college. I didn't hang out with wrestlers at all, even though I was on the wrestling team. I hung out with a bunch of baseball players and this one kid that played soccer. But that changed shortly after our first couple practices in November, because that's when wrestling season starts. Still didn't really hang out much with the wrestlers, but I gradually integrated myself in with them. I don't know what Trey was doing. Just keeping to himself, I think. But then in December, our wrestling team, or at least the ones that bought their own plane tickets or went down there, we went and we wrestled in Florida, Fort Lauderdale.
Hated that trip.
For a Christmas tournament. And me, Trey, and Chris Donaldson, we ended up being roommates.
Yeah.
That's when I really first started hanging out with Trey and found out who Trey was. I may not have even met Trey until December when he was in our room with Donaldson. But anyway, so we started hanging out down in Florida. Eventually, me and Trey became friends. I don't know exactly when this happened. I think it was after the season was over, but me and this kid, Ryan Gary, it was a Saturday morning. It must have been after the season was over because we were having brunch on a Saturday, because that's how Ursinus doesn't have breakfast, they have brunch on the weekends. So we were at brunch, we got done eating, and we were like, you know what? Let's go fuck with Trey. So we walked over to Trey's dorm room. Someone let us in. I don't know how we got in because we didn't have keys to get into his dorm. But we got in. We walked up to his room. The door was open. Wasn't closed. It was cracked. It was ajar. Walk in. Room's dark. No sound. Nothing's moving. Look around. We're like, okay, he must not be here. So we said, okay. And we said this out loud, so he can definitely hear us at this point. We said, okay, I guess he's not here. We'll come back later. We go to leave. Next thing we hear Trey yelling from under the covers, "Oh, I'm jerking off. Give me a minute, I'll be done." So that's basically more or less how me and Trey became really good friends. So me and Gary go out. We let him finish. He comes out, goes to the bathroom, washes his hands. And then I think it was that same night me, Trey, and Ryan, we went to a party on Main Street. We got really drunk. Me and Trey went back to what's called Reimer. It's kind of where a lot of the parties at Ursinus happen. And we went into this one frat, and I don't remember which frat it is. I just remember they were douchebags. And we stole a handle of their vodka. And then the rest is history. Me and Trey took a dance class together with like the worst teacher ever. More wrestling, happened. Trey, were you in Coach's room with me?
Yeah, I was.
Were you one of the guys? Yep. We got put on like academic probation, so for like the first half of our sophomore year, we couldn't wrestle until the second half,
which was actually great for me.
We got to hang out in the coach's office, like during practice. I'm trying to think of who all was in there. I want to say
Brian Carter was in there a lot.
Yeah, well, that's because he was injured. He wasn't stupid like us. He was just hurt. I think Gary was in there a few times, but he wasn't consistent. He wasn't consistent with it.
Yeah.
And then what else happened? We got kicked out of our sinus.
Yep.
Then me and Trey kind of Trey, I forgot, was it sophomore year? No, it was freshman year. Trey ran a NCAA bracket, and I was the only one picked Florida Gulf Coast to win the first round.
And second round.
And second round. I also picked them to win the third, so I was wrong about that. But headband guy, we found out about him.
Changed everything.
He wasn't even coming off the bench. He was just on the bench at Florida Gulf Coast. Best cheerleader on the basketball team, basically. But anyway,
a lot of drunk FIFA days.
Yep, drunk FIFA. That was fun. Finding out Hans. You remember Hans? Finding out Hans was a prince.
You know what? If there's one person I wish I could talk to from back then, I wish I knew what Hans was doing.
Yeah, I miss Hans. I don't know if he liked me because I always called him Prince Hakeem from Coming to America, but I liked it. But anyway, after we got kicked out of our sinus, me and Trey, we basically kept in touch because we basically bounced fantasy stuff off each other. I would text Trey like, "Yo, look at my team. How do you think I drafted?" Trey would, send me his team. We'd ask each other for, like, "Oh, should I start this guy or this guy?" That kind of stuff. Just basically talking NFL stuff, with each other. It got to one point when I moved out of New Jersey and I was living in Pennsylvania. I was living in Wilkes-Barre, and I texted Trey, and then I went to visit him, and then we drove down to Ursinus because we were supposed to pick up Ryan, Gary, and Jamie. Jamie, if you listen to a lead word a couple weeks ago, she was on the lead word. So we went to pick them up, but then they decided not to go because Trey was going to a party at Drexel. So we went down to Drexel, me and Trey.
I totally forgot about this.
We drank like an entire case of beer and like half of a handle of Captain Morgan. And then I ended up pissing my pants that night because I was so drunk. But then we drove back to Trey's house. I dropped him off and then drove, back to Wilkes-Barre. And then there was another time after that I know I went and visited Trey at his house, but I don't remember exactly what that was. Then what else happened? Oh, and then I was talking to my cousin, my cousin, he's a big basketball guy. He's been on the lead word before. Our first year we went on vacation and we went on a cruise, and he actually was on the show during the cruise talking about basketball, the 76ers and that kind of stuff. My cousin's basically, he taught me everything I know about basketball. But I was talking to my cousin about the NFL.
I forgot about that.
He was telling me that, my cousin was telling me, I should start a podcast, all this stuff. And I was like, I could do it, blah, blah, blah. And then, he kept asking me, if I was going to do it. And I was like, you know what, might as well. I'm always talking about sports with Trey. Might as well ask him if he wants to do one with me. So I asked Trey. I was like, Trey, do you want to, start doing a podcast? Trey obviously said yes. And then from there, we just started doing the lead word. Actually, I should say also, before we were doing the lead word, I should mention, Trey, that you were already doing like blogs and stuff like that for several different websites. One was a fantasy website. One was kind of just like an all over the place website. They had sports, they had fashion stuff, that kind of stuff. But Trey was already writing. Trey had actually set me up writing for one of those websites. And then, that was before we started doing the lead word. Then in the midst of that, we started the lead word. And then, the rest is kind of history. Trey had his falling out with the website, so he started Vendetta. This is my guy, so, I obviously followed him. Not to mention, it was an easy place to put the show, so it was, instead of just, every week doing it wherever, Vendetta gave a permanent home for the show. And that, rest is history. Here we are.
Whatever happened to your cousin? Why don't we get him on the show more often, or have his own show?
Oh, he's got 2 kids. He doesn't have time. He just had a second kid.
You gotta at least get him on guest appearances, though. We
could. I don't know. I can always ask him, but he's so busy. Like I said, he's got 2 kids now, and he has last time I asked him, he had 2 jobs. I don't know what he's doing. He's been on paternity leave because like I said, he just had his kid like a couple months ago. But before that, he had 2 jobs. But I'll see if he ever has time, and we can definitely have him on. I'm not opposed to it.
What is there anything that surprised you since we started this site? Are you shocked at where we are? Any goals for the future? What do you got?
No, you know what? I'm not shocked. Because I think we put out great content. I think that's what we do. We just make great content. We have a lot of good people, in our. It's not really a room. It's just like a chat. But we have a lot of good people in our room. So I think I'm not surprised at where we are. I think that we'll continue to have success. And as far as goals are concerned, I just want us to be great. That's all. Just want us to be great.
Let's do some little rapid fire questions for you. How about
okay.
Favorite food?
I don't know. Tacos probably, or no, not tacos, chalupas.
Favorite dessert?
Cheesecake.
Favorite vacation spot?
Let's say Hawaii.
Favorite fashion or clothing or shoe brand?
I'm a big Jordan guy.
Favorite movie and TV show?
Movie, Top Gun, easily. TV show. I don't know. There's too many.
How about the mock draft that we did? Can we talk about that for a little bit? How do you like your picks?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think I did great. I think I did excellent.
I forget exactly who you picked, but I think Henry Ruggs.
Oh, I know. Isaiah Simmons, Henry Ruggs, Kenneth McKinney. No, Kenneth Murray.
Yeah. Xavier McKinney. Yeah.
And then Pat Queen. Very defensive, but I guess that's just who I am as a person.
For those who haven't seen our mock draft, make sure to check that out. Basically, all of the bloggers were assigned teams. They put their GM skills to the test. So if you haven't checked that out, do so already. Chad, do you have anything else to sort of add into how Vendetta got started? Anything that you want to sort of talk about? Any topics?
I don't know. I kind of forgot to mention we had a co-owner with Trey, but
yeah,
he kind of didn't do anything.
So.
Yeah,
we don't.
That didn't last long.
Yeah. I guess we can finish off with any NFL draft and maybe some fantasy topics. Do you have any? Because I know you've been studying the draft. Do you have any new revelations? Do you have any sort of fantasy rookies that you're looking forward to?
research is kind of still in the same place where it's been. Like I said, it's been, even though I'm working from home now, it's just not, I've been really busy with that just because I have to do all this extra stuff for my job now. So I haven't really gotten to look as much as I hoped. I'm actually off tomorrow, so I was actually going to really look into it a lot more tomorrow when I have off. But I mean, again, I think basically if we kind of talked about if I was the Eagles head coach or a GM, on draft day, who would I take? Honestly, I'm sticking to my guns with that. If I'm Howie Roseman and Kenneth Murray falls to me at number 21, that's who I want. I want that linebacker. I mean, I think the Eagles as a team undervalue the linebacker position. And that's why they let Jordan Hicks walk. That's why they haven't really had a stud linebacker for a while now. But I think that's where you got to go. We took care of the secondary. We've loaded up on defensive line. I think I don't think I need a wide receiver in the first round. I don't think the Eagles have had much success getting first round wide receivers. So I want to go linebacker in the first round.
How about this? I don't know if the viewers know this, but it's pretty apparent that you're a diehard Eagles fan. For those who don't know you personally, we've gone to 2 Eagles games together. Talk about how you fell in love with the Eagles growing up.
So I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. I was actually almost a Cowboys fan.
Oh, God.
Believe it or not. Basically, the story is so I have an aunt, Sherry. Growing up, Aunt Sherry was my favorite aunt. She's funny. She lived not too far from us. Her kids, Brandon, was one of my favorite cousins. Kristen, my other, his sister was one of my favorite cousins. And my cousin, we call him BJ. His name is Robert John. So Bob John. So BJ, we call him BJ. He was one of my. I didn't really see him that often, but he was kind of the mysterious cousin who just had an air of just mystery about him. Never really saw him that much, but he was just kind of dressed like Neo from The Matrix. So I thought he was really cool. So anyway, they they lived around the corner from us, and my Aunt Sherry was a Cowboys fan. Don't ask me how that happened. I guess she grew up in the 70s and 80s, during their superpower days. So, she was a big, Cowboys fan from back when. So she was a Cowboys fan, and since Aunt Sherry was a Cowboys fan, when my dad asked me who's your favorite team, I said I think I'm a Cowboys fan because Aunt Sherry. And so my dad was like, oh well, that can't happen. So my mom ended up getting she got Eagles tickets from one of her coworkers, and then my dad took me and my older brother took us to an Eagles game. I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and the Eagles. I remember they were playing the Packers. I don't remember who won that game, but I do remember just having a lot of fun at the stadium. I remember that everyone around us was yelling "Green Bay sucks," and me and my brother started yelling "Green Bay sucks." And my dad was like, "Look, you can say that here, but you just can't say it when we get home." And ever since then, just ever since going to that game, been an Eagles fan.
How about one more question for you? You've been doing some Women Crush Wednesday posts, a little Baker idea that you've kind of taken over and doing a good job with that. How do you pick the chicks that go on Women Crush Wednesday? What's the criteria?
Honestly, that's kind of had to be adjusted due to the coronavirus. It was kind of, my idea was going to be okay, it's a kind of going to be 40% how attractive they are, maybe 50% newsworthiness, or 30% newsworthiness, and then another 30% just miscellaneous factors. But then coronavirus happened, so my plan was I was going to build I'm a huge softball fan. I love watching NCAA softball, So my plan was like, I was going to use a lot of softball players. Maybe every once in a while, WNBA player will be in the news. We'll use one of them, or a female UFC fighter. Chicks like Paige Van Zant, those kind of ones. So that was my plan. Obviously, all that's been shut down. So now it's kind of just like whoever I feel like it. Like I said, I did the one a couple weeks ago. Was Taylor Swift. I was trying to hold Taylor Swift in my back pocket for like a rainy day where no one made the news. But then that kind of just like I needed someone to use, so I threw her out there early in the process. But that's kind of it. Just like at this point, it's whoever I want.
I lied. One more question. When is Heavyweight Hot Takes coming back?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like it was Heavyweight Hot Takes was fun. Don't get me wrong, but it was just kind of like I don't know the quick one hit I don't even podcast. It was I don't know. It surprisingly it was harder to do than the lead word, harder to keep up with, because like the lead word, it was like, okay, we come on the show, we have a bunch of topics, and then it's we just me and you just talk about sports. That's really all it is. Like we have like a set idea of what we want to talk about. You usually have a better outline than me. I usually just talk. And then, I usually edit that night and then post it the next day. Or I might wait and edit it whenever I get the chance and then post it whenever I do. For the Heavyweight Hot Takes, it was a little bit harder because I wanted to do it twice a week, but it was getting to the point where, like, I would kind of not really have anything that I would want to have a hot take about. So then it kind of got to the point where I was trying to, like, force it, and then it just didn't feel natural, and it just felt weird, and I just didn't like it. So that it was honestly harder than like the 45-minute lead word, which I thought was strange.
For those who are listening, I want everyone to have a homework assignment. Go on the site, Vendetta Sports Media, search for Heavyweight Hot Takes, and let Chad know if he should bring it back, because I was a big fan of those.
Yeah, you get in my mentions at Lilfooted. Let me know. I mean, I guess if there's overwhelming support to bring it back, I guess I can't leave the people not wanting it, but it was honestly ridiculously hard coming up with things to have a hot take about.
All right, and that's Chad Bauman for you. He talked about the start of Vendetta, how everything got started. Make sure to give him a follow at Lilfooted. Chad, thanks for coming on the show for episode 69.
Nice. But yeah, my pleasure. Been meaning to get on That's Some Cheese, so thanks for having me on, Chad.
No problem. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next time.
Tell you something. You know what really grinds my gears? You, America. Fuck you, Diane.